The acid taste of bile rose in my throat as Pamela Overton slid the document across the polished mahogany table. "Sign it, Natalie," she commanded, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light as she tapped a manicured nail on the signature line. "Before we reconsider allowing you into our family." My vision narrowed to that single page, 23 pages of legal jargon that essentially declared me worthless. Behind her, my fiancé Jackson sat with his shoulders hunched, refusing to meet my eyes while his father Warren studied me with the smug satisfaction of someone who'd just cornered prey. The prenuptial agreement, the one they'd ambushed me with after 2 years together, after a beach proposal with his grandmother's ring, after booking venues and sending invitations, laid between us like a declaration of war. The document's laser-printed heading seemed to pulse with each beat of my hammering heart. Agreement to protect family assets. My attorney Margaret shifted beside me, her expression carefully neutral, though I'd seen her shocked face days earlier when she'd reviewed what she called one of the most one-sided agreements I've seen in 30 years of practice. "My name is Natalie, I'm 29 and an elementary school teacher. This is the story of how I turned the tables on the family that thought I was nothing but a gold digger." The family meeting had been called for Saturday at 10 a.m. Jackson had warned me the previous night, his voice apologetic but resigned. "Mom wants to discuss the prenup. Dad's lawyer drafted something. Just sign it, Nat. It doesn't matter. I love you regardless." But it did matter. It mattered that after dating for 2 years, after planning a wedding for 200 guests, his family still saw me as nothing but a fortune hunter. It mattered that I sat in their Greenwich estate surrounded by leather-bound books they'd probably never read and artwork purchased for status rather than appreciation, while they explained why I needed to sign away any claim to the Overton fortune. "Let me be clear," Warren said, leaning back in his chair like a king addressing a peasant. "Jackson is heir to Overton Industries. When we die, he'll inherit this estate, the business, the investment portfolios. We've worked for 40 years to build this wealth. We're not about to let some," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "elementary school teacher walk away with half of it after a few years of marriage." "Dad," Jackson protested weakly. "That's not fair." "It's perfectly fair," Pamela interrupted. "Natalie, I'm sure you're a lovely girl. Jackson clearly cares about you, but facts are facts. You make $52,000 a year teaching second grade. You live in a rented apartment. You drive a 10-year-old Toyota. You bring no assets to this marriage." "She brings herself," Jackson said, finding a bit of spine. "That's enough for me." "Sentiment is lovely, darling, but it doesn't protect family wealth," Pamela said, her voice sugary with condescension. "Natalie, you must understand. We're not saying you're a bad person. We're saying you're marrying up significantly. This prenup simply protects what Jackson has built. Well, what we've built for him." I looked at the document in front of me. 23 pages that boiled down to one message: "You're worth nothing. You get nothing. Sign here." "May I speak with my client privately?" Margaret asked. "Is that necessary?" Warren frowned. "It's a standard prenup. She signs. We move forward with wedding planning. Simple. Mr. Overton, Ms. Edwards is entitled to legal counsel before signing any binding document." "Fine. 5 minutes. We'll wait outside." The Overtons filed out, Jackson throwing me an apologetic look. When the door closed, Margaret turned to me with barely suppressed amusement. "Are you going to tell them?" she asked quietly. "Not yet," I said. "I want to see how far they'll go. Nat, they're offering you nothing. No spousal support, no claim to marital assets acquired during the marriage, no provision for children." "I know. And you're still going to sign it?" "I'm considering it." Margaret shook her head. "Your call, but when this blows up, and it will blow up, I want to be there to see their faces." The Overtons returned, Pamela carrying a tray with coffee and croissants as if this were a pleasant social gathering rather than a financial ambush. "Have you made your decision?" Warren asked, settling back into his throne-like chair. "I have a few questions first," I said calmly. "Of course," Pamela said with practiced patience. "We want you to understand everything. The prenup specifies that I have no claim to any Overton assets, including this estate." When the door closed, Margaret turned to me with barely suppressed amusement. "Are you going to tell them?" she asked quietly. "Not yet," I said. "I want to see how far they'll go. Nat, they're offering you nothing. Is that correct? Correct, Warren confirmed. This property has been in our family for 30 years. It's worth approximately $4.2 million. Obviously, we can't risk losing it in a divorce. Obviously, I agreed. And Overton Industries, Jackson's inheritance of the company, also protected? The business is worth roughly $87 million. It will pass to Jackson and remain solely his property regardless of marital status. What about the investment portfolio mentioned in Section 7? Pamela smiled. That's our retirement portfolio. $12 million in stocks, bonds, and real estate investments. We've worked very hard for that security, Natalie. You understand why we need to protect it? I do understand, I said. One more question. What happens if something changes in your financial situation? If you were to face unexpected difficulties? Warren laughed, a sharp bark of amusement. Unexpected difficulties? The Overtons have been financially sound for 3 generations. We don't have difficulties. But theoretically, I pressed. If circumstances changed, would the prenup change? The prenup is ironclad, Warren said firmly. Nothing changes it. You sign it, you're bound by it forever. That's the point. I see. I looked at Jackson, who was studying his hands. Jackson, is this really what you want? He finally met my eyes. Nat, I love you, but they're my parents. This is their condition for giving us their blessing and paying for the wedding. If we don't sign, they'll cut me off entirely. Cut you off? I repeated. From what exactly? Everything, Pamela interjected. Jackson works for Overton Industries because we gave him that position. He lives in the penthouse apartment because we purchased it. His car, his country club membership, his lifestyle, all provided by us. If he defies us on this prenup, all of that ends. I turned to Margaret. In your professional opinion, should I sign this? Margaret's eyes gleamed. Oh, I think we should discuss what you'd be signing away first. May I? Margaret opened her briefcase and pulled out a different folder. Mr. and Mrs. Overton, I've reviewed your prenuptial agreement thoroughly. I've also reviewed my client's financial disclosure, which she's required to provide as part of any prenuptial process. I think you should see it before Miss Edwards signs anything. Why? Warren frowned. She's a school teacher. We know her finances. Do you? Margaret slid a document across the table. This is Ms. Edwards's current net worth statement prepared by her financial advisors. Warren picked up the paper with visible reluctance. His expression shifted from boredom to confusion to shock as he read. Beside him, Pamela craned her neck to see. This can't be right, he said, voice hoarse. This says you have assets of approximately $340 million, Margaret confirmed. Primarily through Edwards Capital, the private equity firm she founded 8 years ago. But you're a teacher, Pamela whispered. I am a teacher, I said. 3 days a week, I teach 2nd grade at Westside Elementary. I love working with children. The rest of the time, I run my company, which specializes in distressed debt acquisition and real estate investment. Warren was frantically flipping through the disclosure documents. This says you own 14 commercial properties in Connecticut alone. 17 now, I corrected. The documents are a few weeks old. And, Warren's voice faltered. And it says you own the mortgage on this house? That's correct, I confirmed. Edwards Capital acquired the note from Greenwich United Bank 3 years ago when they were liquidating certain assets. It was part of a package deal. I didn't realize it was your mortgage until Jackson invited me to dinner here the first time and I recognized the address from our portfolio. Pamela's face had gone pale. You own our mortgage? All this time we've been making payments to you. To Edwards Capital, I clarified. The companies managing the payments maintain client confidentiality. I wasn't directly involved in servicing your particular loan. Why didn't you tell us? Jackson asked, looking as shocked as his parents. Why pretend to be just a teacher? When did you ask? I countered. When did you ever ask me about my work beyond accepting that I'm a teacher? When did you express interest in my life beyond the surface details? But you could have mentioned. That I'm wealthy? Why? So you'd love me for my money instead of who I am? We don't care about money, Pamela insisted weakly. No? I raised an eyebrow. Then why am I sitting here being asked to sign a prenup that protects your family's assets while offering me nothing? You've spent the last hour explaining exactly how much you care about money. Margaret pulled another document from her briefcase. Since we're discussing prenuptial agreements, I've taken the liberty of preparing an alternative. One that better reflects the actual financial situations of both parties. Warren took the new document with trembling hands. This is extremely generous. It's fair, I corrected. It proposes that all assets acquired before marriage remain separate property, mine and Jackson's. Assets acquired during marriage are split equitably based on contribution and circumstance. There are provisions for children, for spousal support if needed, for the business interests of both parties to be protected. Both parties? Jackson repeated. Nat, I don't have business interests. You own everything. You work for Overton Industries, I pointed out. That's a business interest worth protecting. And Jackson, if we marry, I plan to invest in expanding that business. I've analyzed your family's company. It has incredible potential that's being wasted by conservative management. With proper capital and strategy, Overton Industries could triple its value in 5 years. Warren was reading my proposed prenup with growing amazement. This section here, you're offering to invest $20 million in Overton Industries? If we marry, we're family. I invest in family. But the investment would be structured as a business loan with fair terms, keeping the company's ownership within your family while providing capital for growth. Why? Pamela asked, her voice breaking. After how we've treated you, why would you do that? Because I love your son, I said simply. And because I believe in building up the people I care about, not tearing them down. Unlike you, I don't measure people's worth by their bank accounts. Jackson reached for my hand across the table. Nat, I'm so sorry. I should have asked more questions. I should have really listened when you talked about your work. Yes, you should have, I agreed. But you're young and you were raised in an environment that values appearances over substance. You can learn. Can we start over? He asked. Can I actually get to know the real you? I looked at him, really looked at him, trying to see past the embarrassment and shock to the man I'd fallen in love with. Do you love me because you thought I was a simple school teacher who needed rescuing? Or do you love me for who I actually am? I don't know, he admitted. I thought I knew who you were. Now I'm realizing I didn't know anything. That's honest at least, I said. Pamela spoke up, her voice subdued. Natalie, what happens now? With the mortgage, with the wedding, with everything? The mortgage continues as normal, I said. Your payments are current and the terms are fair. As for the wedding, I looked at Jackson. That depends on whether we can build a real relationship based on honesty instead of assumptions. And the prenup? Warren asked quietly. I stood up, gathering my things. Take both prenups. Read them. Think about what they say about how we view each other. My version protects both of us while assuming we're partners building a life together. Your version assumes I'm a threat to be neutralized. We were wrong, Warren said, standing as well. Completely wrong, Natalie. I apologize. We judged you based on superficial observations and our own prejudices. That was inexcusable. It was, I agreed. But Mr. Overton, you should know I would have signed your prenup. Everyone stared at me. Even knowing how one-sided it was? Margaret asked. Yes, because I don't need Jackson's money. I never did. I was marrying him for love, not for access to the Overton fortune. Your prenup would have protected me just as much as it protected you. It would have proven that my motives were pure. But you didn't sign it, Pamela observed. No, because you needed to learn that worth isn't measured in dollars. You needed to understand that the woman you were dismissing as a gold digger actually holds your financial future in her hands. You needed to be humbled. Warren smiled slightly. Mission accomplished. Good. I headed for the door, then turned back. Jackson, you have my number. When you're ready to have an honest conversation about who we both are and what we both want from marriage, call me. Until then, the wedding is postponed. Nat, wait, Jackson started. No. You've spent 2 years dating a version of me you invented in your head. Take some time to decide if you want to know the real me. That's going to require effort, curiosity, and seeing me as an equal rather than a project to rescue. I walked out of the Overton estate, the estate I technically held the mortgage on, with Margaret beside me. That was magnificent, Margaret said as we reached my car. Though I still think you should have let me tell them about the other properties. Other properties? Edwards Capital owns mortgages on 3 other Greenwich estates, including the one owned by Pamela's sister. You basically hold notes on half their social circle. I laughed. Let's keep that information in reserve. They've had enough shocks for one day. What are you going to do about Jackson? I unlocked my Tesla, the one I usually parked a block away from his apartment so he wouldn't see it. I'm going to wait and see if he's capable of growth. If he can look past his assumptions and actually see me. If he can actually love the woman I am, not the woman he thought I was. And if he can't? Then I'll move on. I'm not interested in being someone's charity case or their trophy wife. I'm interested in a partner who values me for who I actually am. My phone buzzed as I drove away. A text from Jackson, I'm an idiot. Can we talk? Really talk? I smiled and typed back, tomorrow, coffee shop on Main Street, 10 a.m. And Jackson, come prepared to ask questions about my actual life, not the life you assumed I had. His response was immediate, I will. I promise. And Nat, I'm sorry for not seeing you, for not asking, for being exactly what my parents raised me to be. Awareness is the first step, I typed. See you tomorrow. I put my phone away and drove toward my actual home, a 3-bedroom condo in Stamford with water views, underground parking, and a home office where I managed a $340 million private equity firm while wearing yoga pants and volunteering at elementary schools. They'd called me a gold digger who brought nothing to the marriage. They hadn't realized I owned the gold mine. And maybe, just maybe, they'd learned something about judging people based on appearances rather than character, about worth versus wealth, about the difference between having money and being valuable. Tomorrow, I'd find out if Jackson had learned the same lesson. And if he hadn't? Well, I'd built an empire from nothing once before. I could certainly find a partner who valued me for more than my bank account, or lack thereof. Either way, I'd be fine. I'd always been fine. They just hadn't bothered to notice. 6 months later, I sat across from Jackson at our favorite restaurant, his eyes warm as he reached for my hand. After our coffee meeting, we'd started fresh, weekly dates where we truly got to know each other. I'd shared the story of building Edwards Capital from my inheritance after my parents' accident when I was 21, and he'd begun working to establish his own identity separate from his parents' expectations. Have you decided about the prenup? He asked, his voice steady. I nodded. I'm signing the fair one, the one that protects us both while acknowledging we're partners. The waiter appeared with champagne. To new beginnings, Jackson said, raising his glass. And to the Overton Edwards wedding, take 2, I replied. This time with our eyes wide open. Our wedding 3 months later was smaller, just 50 people who truly knew and supported us. Warren and Pamela attended not as controllers of the event, but as humbled parents who'd learned to see beyond appearances. The marriage license we signed that day was accompanied by a prenuptial agreement that recognized both our values, financial and personal. As for Overton Industries? With my investment and strategic guidance, their company valuation had already increased by 40% in the first year. Turns out love and business could mix after all, when built on honesty, respect, and seeing people for who they truly are.